As you were talking about all the issues that have gone on the border historically, the Mexican Revolution, the great migrations of people north of the border, Mexico experiencing brain drain and so forth, with all this violence that's going on right next to us, I mean, violence on the level where, it's become international publicity for our area, not in a good way, where people are so scared to even go outside of their homes in our sister city in Juarez. What kind of impacts are these going to have on relations between Mexico and the United States, and what kind of things can we do to rein in this violence that's going on? How should we be using our Texas state resources, our federal resources to tackle this very thorny problem?
Well, I want to get a little drink of water, and then I'm going to use this as show and tell, okay? In my office would be in a meeting, and my overworked, underpaid staff would be saying, what's he going to get us into now? And I would use this prop, and I'd say, if Mexico is in historic, tragic, horrible violence, let's hold that thought. What just happened when I did that? And some members of my staff would say in Spanish, pues se cayó. Se cayó. In Spanish, it really means it fell itself. It fell by itself. The fact is, I knocked it off the table. And the fact is, understanding how I knocked it off, why I knocked it off, and what am I going to do to put it back, is exactly where we are as a community with Mexico. Too often our community has sat on the sidelines as a bystander and watched as historic events passed us by without being an actor in the play that's unfolding in front of us. What is happening in Mexico is historic and not confined to Mexico. It is happening in parts of Southeast Asia. It is happening in Somalia. It is happening in different parts of the world where civil society has melted away and the forces of evil, frankly, have taken over. Folks that have no moral character, folks that are willing to do anything, and they are criminal enterprise on a massive scale. That's happened in Juarez. I mean, let's be fair, that's what's happened. It's happened in parts of Sinaloa. It's now spreading to parts of Tamaulipas, and soon it will be heading south. The people in Mexico City will say, pues es el norte, no tenemos que buscar aquí porque we don't have to worry about it because it's just in the north. Guess what? It's in your community too, and guess what? It's in this community here. How could you have the biggest plaza on the U.S.-Mexico border with more narco trafficking than any other, and a war going on because two narco gangs believe it's the most valuable place to be and they're willing to fight over it, and not believe that half of that's on the other side as the distribution system to Atlanta or Dallas or Houston or Phoenix? So here's my point. This is not a se cayó moment. This is nosotros vamos a actuar. We're going to do something about it. And El Paso's political leadership should be leading the national and international effort at what the solutions ought to be. In my last year in office, I spent a lot of time in Mexico City. I spent a lot of time in Juarez. I spent a lot of time in Austin and D.C. working with the State Department, the ambassador of the United States to Mexico, who in my view was the best ambassador that the United States has produced in the last 10 years, a guy named Carlos Pascual, on what the framework should be in our approach to Mexico. Mexico's a sovereign nation. They're equals in the world of nations. We can't dictate anything. Mexico and the United States have had a long, and in some cases, very tragic history themselves. But we can help in achieving a solution as equals and as partners so that the people that are good in civil society can take back the streets. And that really ought to be one of the conversations today in El Paso. 10 years ago, it was about the medical school. Now, I gave a speech to the Kiwanis clubs of El Paso about 5 days ago, and I said, the three issues that we need to be paying attention to as a community, the very first one is Mexico, because we now own that brand. We can put on a Sun Bowl and make it the best it can be and it look on TV and it's beautiful, and as they pan the panorama there and you're looking into Mexico, Well, of course, right here's Mexico, and no one goes over there because it's the most violent city in the world. How can you have that be the brand of the region? And guess what? If we brought to bear the talent that sent men to the moon, that locally created a medical school, we can fix that too. I was just on a tour in Mexico with a good friend of mine, a person I've known for 25 years. Many people told me not to go. Your mother's there. Some of your relatives live in Juarez every day. Aunts and uncles are there and come back and forth. This is a community where people, families, live together and know each other. The tragedy of what is living behind walls now and everyone in fear is horrible. And after the tour I said, Oiga Miguel, Mike, tell me this, how many bad people are there in Juarez? So Juarez has 1.7 million people, right? How many are bad? How many people do you think are bad in Juarez? Here's the line. Let's put all the bad people over here. How many bad people do we have?
I'm guessing it's probably 1,000.
1,000. What do you think?
I'll say a percentage, 1%.
Okay. So you're saying 1,000. You're saying 17,000. Here's the line. And we're over here. And so that leaves a lot of good people, right? Like 1,690,000 good people. So it's the question I asked Miguel, aquí está la línea. ¿Cómo puede ser? How can it be that the bad people are controlling the good people? Where's the corazón? What are we going to do to change this? You don't have to wait a day. Change it right now. You can do it. Don't live behind walls and don't come to the United States right now. Stay. Fix it. Make it happen. I know it's dangerous, but you can do it. And really, that's the question. That's the question of the day in Juarez. What do we the people, the 1.69 million people, do today to take back the streets, to win the battle? And then how does that spirit go to the next town in Nuevo León? How does it go to the next town in Tamaulipas? How do we help with Matamoros? And what is the role of the United States in being a partner and not a commander? The United States too often tries to command and dictate the end solutions. Really, this is a solution of the Mexican people. And that's the question I posed to Miguel. And the sad part, this is a man that I've known for many years. He did not have the hope that I've seen in him in the past. He said, Senator, no tenemos ley, no tenemos el carácter, no tenemos las cosas. We don't have the individual acts of courage that we need to make this work. I said, that's our job. Our job together is to help make that happen. That's what has to happen in Mexico today. There are other pieces of it that have to do with the creation of jobs. When you have, in South Juarez, in the Valle de Juarez, you have 200,000 ni employados. They've never had a job.
Ni estudian ni trabajan.
Never went to school. So can you imagine 100,000 in El Paso that had never had a job and never worked? Where do you think the cartels and the gangs are getting their next recruit? It's right there. And you ask a young man, what do you want to be when you grow up? He says, a sicario. That's what's happening in Juarez. So it's tragic, but I resist the idea when we disempower ourselves by saying it's sad. Because it should empower us to make that change happen, to get good people of good faith together to say, what's the next step and how we're going to change it? Help me out here. I go hiking up the mountain a lot. The students, with friends, and a lot of those folks I go up there with are people from Juarez. I was up there Sunday morning. Tomorrow morning I'm going to go again, talking about what's happening and what the next step is. And there's good things that are happening that people don't know about. But we need to amplify them, and frankly, on the U.S. side, we need federal leadership that will help fix it. You can't have a federal Texas senator say, "We're just gonna. We need a higher wall on the border." That's the solution. It's not a solution. It is a failure of your leadership to get in the middle of the solution from a global perspective, Senator Cornyn. And that's what we need to say. We need to say we need better leadership on this.